Welcome to you all this morning. Welcome however you're joining us today, and whatever you bring with you, you're welcome. Parker J. Palmer said, "If we want to support each other's inner lives, we must remember a simple truth. The human soul does not want to be fixed. It wants to be seen and heard." And so this morning we're continuing our theme of story, and this service is about listening to each other. So I'll begin, as is our custom, by lighting our chalice flame this morning. And if you're at home, do feel free to light your candle with me. Here today, in this place with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. Amen. So let's sing our first hymn today, which is in the purple book. It is number 11, called Blessed Spirit of My Life. And just a reminder that we're still not singing in church, but you have the words to look at, and if you feel like humming along, then please do. So it's number 11, Blessed Spirit of My Life. We come into a time of prayer. And this is a prayer by the Unitarian Universalist Gary Kowalski, which he calls listening with the heart. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all. Maybe it means just listening. Unplugging the TV, turning off the computer, quieting the mental chatter and distractions. Maybe it means listening to the birds, and the insects, the wind in the leaves, the creaking and groaning of the trees. Noticing who else is out there, not far away, but nearby. Sitting so still we can hear our heartbeat. Watch our breath. The gentle whoosh of air. The funny noises from our own insides. Marveling at the body we take so much for granted. Maybe it means listening to our dreams, paying more attention to what we really want from life, and less attention to all the nagging, scolding voices from our past. Or maybe it's all about listening to each other, not thinking ahead to how we can answer or rebut, or parry or advise or admonish, but actually being present to each other. Perhaps if we just sit quietly, we'll overhear a peace whispering through the centuries that's missing from the clamour of the moment. Maybe prayer means listening to the silences between the words, noticing the negativity of space, the vast, undifferentiated and nameless wonder that underlies it all. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all, but listening with the heart to the angel choirs all around us. Those who have ears, let them hear. Amen. Now, the writer Rachel Naomi Remen writes, I expect the most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give each other is our attention. I don't know what that is. When people are talking, there's no need to do anything but receive them. So I don't know I don't know if you can hear online, but there's some quite loud bangs going off. I don't know what they signify, but we'll carry on. So I'm going to invite you now simply to listen as Suzanne shares something of her story with us this morning. And then we'll follow her words with a little silence and some music.
Take this off, that's good. Feels more normal now. I like to start first, really, with just before I start with my story. I like us to be in the now, and first I like us to think of where we are this very minute. We are in Plymouth Unitarian Church with people joining us on Zoom. And what does that create? It creates a prejudice-free environment. Doesn't that make you feel warm and cozy? It gets better. All the Unitarian churches and meetings all over the country and all over the world are creating prejudice-free bubbles, if you like. And doesn't that make you feel as if you're being hugged? Oh, I know, it does me. So we'll begin by looking at what prejudice means. Prejudice refers to a positive or negative evaluation of another person's based on their perceived group membership, example, race, class, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and ability. How come in the year 2021 we still have the word prejudice in our dictionaries? Because there is still plenty of it about, even though all those years ago, throughout the ministry of Jesus, we learned that prejudice towards others was not acceptable. To not accept people how they are or how they see themselves is to demean their human right, and of course does nothing for the perpetrators, show their ignorance. People's ignorances of others has a lasting and damaging effect on those who are the recipients. It can diversify the very path in life that a person takes. There are many stories in people's lives that can testify to that. And my story of prejudice experiences happened throughout my life. Started when I was 15 years old. I stayed out innocently all night with a friend who happened to be of the same sex as myself. And when I went home, my parents were waiting for me, and my father used me as a boxer's punch bag. I never knew why until at 17 years I signed up in the Women's Royal Army Corps, and 3 months before the mob time, I was discharged for being gay. As a civilian, I got tired of the preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. That was interrupting with the person of who I am. So I decided to live a life that professedly was a normal one. I wanted to have a child anyway. Oh dear, wrong move. I married, or thought I was, and walked right into a world that I never knew existed, which was the underworld of Plymouth. There was nothing in my upbringing that prepared me for this. I had 3 daughters. In 1960, Denise. 1962, Jacqueline. And 1963 came Pauline. I realized that I was being used and had to find a way out. So went to the social services in Plymouth. They said the difficulty I was having was a social class difference and was no help at all. But I had Pauline with me. And no money or home. They said they would foster Pauline while I sorted out work and a place to live. The other 2 children should remain where they were in their father's mother's home. I eventually found work on a farm on Dartmoor and rented a cottage in the village with the idea of Pauline lived with me first, followed by Jacqueline and Denise. I found out that Pauline had been taken to Hull without informing me. So that night I drove to Hull Social Services Office and demanded to see my daughter. Eventually, they agreed. But the short meeting ended up with a social service woman pulling a 4-year-old child out of her mother's arms. I can't say how long I cried, but it was endless. Time went on with me not understanding why I was not receiving the support that I was entitled to. Then it clicked. The same prejudices was happening, as by now I was living with a woman and running out of hope. And sometimes love means to let go. I am one of those thousands of women waiting for an apology from the government because of prejudices against them, being gay or a single mum, or poor, or different colour. Zasha. To me, it is children stolen under a legitimate umbrella. In 2021, the pandemic has enabled us to focus and be aware of nature's value to our very existence. Surely, being kinder to each other by realizing that vast diversity in nature and how valuable to us it is, then perhaps by being kinder to our fellow humans, we shall then eradicate our prejudices of each other. And instead, we could celebrate our differences, for we were all born under the same stars, for goodness sake. I've told you this not so much for myself, but the same things are going on, and we have to change. And in order to change them, we have to know what they are. I thank you, each one of you, and everyone on Zoom. Thank you for listening to my story. It means a lot.
Thank you, Suzanne. I'm very grateful to you for speaking today. And I know it took a lot of courage to do so. So I'd like to invite us all now to take some silence and just reflect on Suzanne's words, and then we'll listen to some music.
I'm listening. I am listening. Spirit, speak to me. I'm listening. I am listening. Spirit, speak to me. My ears are wide open. My eyes are now open to see what I may be. I'm listening. I am listening. Spirit, speak to me. I'm listening. I am listening. In this moment of Spirit, speak through me. I can hear the voices of all my kind. I'm listening, singing. I am listening. The tweeting and howling into the wind. My ears are wide open, and oh, the joy. My eyes are wide open, oh, the love to see and to hear for you and me. Oh, I'm listening in this moment of silence. I am listening. I hear Spirit speak through me.
Thank you again, Suzanne, for speaking so powerfully and bravely. And I know everyone will have really appreciated you doing that. Listening is a practice. It's something we get better at the more we do. Listening is about letting our busy-brained selves move aside just for a while in order to make space for something or someone else. So nature, the sound of a song thrush singing, rain splashing on the pavement, which I think we've been listening to quite a bit recently. And when we listen to the rhythms of nature, don't we find they often mirror and merge with the rhythms of our own bodies, our breathing and our heartbeats ebb and flow like the tides and the seasons. And so we are able to feel more connected with the planet and its cycles. Or we listen to make space for our own soul's little voice. What is that small voice trying to say to us? There is such wisdom to be heard from the spirit within if we're willing to take the time to listen. Or as we have been doing this morning, we choose to clear away perhaps enough debris in our own minds to make room for someone else's story, which means putting aside our own stories for a time while we walk a path alongside another human being. Truly listening means allowing ourselves to drop into a place of quietness and stillness, a state of readiness and receptivity, alert and focused. It's an active thing, not a passive one. And this kind of active listening allows a deeper quality of understanding to emerge. One that's more compassionate and more connected. As we listen to each other's stories, as we have just listened to Suzanne's, when we do that with our hearts fully open, that really is a form of prayer. It is a way of consciously acknowledging and honouring the humanity as well as the divinity of another human being. Of course, hearing each other's stories can happen anywhere, on the bus, in the supermarket, over a coffee, in church. But wherever it happens, it always requires us to lay down our prejudices and our assumptions about that other person, to clear away the clutter and hold someone else in the light of a clear space, rather than jumping in with our judgments and our interpretations or with another story of our own. It means expanding our smaller selves to make room for another. And so listening in this way is an act of love. It's something we can extend to those we know and also to complete strangers. Suzanne has shared what happened to her and her daughters when the very people who should have been listening made judgments about her instead. And the results, as we've heard, were devastating. And I know Suzanne is still waiting and hoping that one day she will be reunited with her youngest daughter, Pauline, who she hasn't seen since that day. And as she said, sadly, these kinds of things still happen in enormous ways and also in tiny ways. The American sculptor Anne Truitt wrote, "Unless we're very careful, we doom each other by holding on to images of one another based on preconceptions that are in turn based on indifference to what is other than ourselves. We claim autonomy for ourselves and forget that in so doing, we can fall into the tyranny of defining other people as we would like them to be, not as they are. And by focusing on what we choose to acknowledge in them, we impose an insidious control over them." She continues, "I notice that I have to pay careful attention in order to listen to others with an openness that allows them to be themselves. The shutters of my mind habitually flip open and click shut, and these little snaps form into patterns, and I arrange them for myself. But the opposite of this inattention is love. It is the honouring of others in a way that grants them the grace of their own autonomy and allows mutual discovery." Words by Anne Truitt. So I've recently been thinking about listening in another context, as the orchestra that I play in has started to meet again for rehearsals after, a year and a half. Which is lovely. And our conductor, Anne, usually leads from the front with her baton, as you'd imagine. But recently I've noticed she's started to come down from her podium more often and to sit to one side while we play and to let us sort ourselves out. Which of course means that suddenly we have no one to watch who's guiding us and telling us what to do. Instead, we have to listen intently to each other. And the difference is remarkable. We become more aware of the sound each other is making and more conscious of the movements and picking up the cues from each other. Because we're listening, we start to play more as though we were one. We have to discover for ourselves our place in the whole sound and judge when to play out and when to fall away again to make more space for another section. The experience is more intimate and more rewarding. We still need our conductor, of course. She organises us and guides us and has a vision for how the piece should sound. But when we really listen to each other, we start to hear things in the music that we've never heard before and begin to understand how our part fits with the whole, how we complement each other. And when we start to see another person's purpose and being more clearly, I think it helps us also better see the importance and the purpose of our own and how each of us contribute to the whole. Listening is work. It requires concentration, attention, but it opens the door to wholeness. And I'd like to just share these words by Mark Nepo. He writes, "For listening to the stories of others is a kind of water that breaks the fever of our isolation. If we listen closely enough, we are soothed into remembering our common name." May it be so. Our second hymn this morning is in the green hymn books, and this is number 33. Hymn number 33, Do You Hear? So you should have a green book with you if you're sitting in the church, and if you're on Zoom, you won't need it because you'll see the words on your screen. So hymn number 33, Do You Hear? Well sung and well hummed. So I would like to close with some words by the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. Walk the maze within your heart. Guide your steps into its questioning curves. This labyrinth is a puzzle leading you deeper into your own truths. Listen in the twists and turns. Listen in the openness within all searching. Listen. A wisdom within you calls to a wisdom beyond you. And in that dialogue lies peace. So I wish you all a good week. If you're watching the match tonight, I hope you enjoy it. Good luck, everybody. And go in peace.